Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm April Martinez.
And I am Isani Cayetano.
And good morning, Belize. I know some of you are still sleeping in bed. It is such lovely weather for not going outside. if Isani would agree with me, I think today is a day to rest.
Wholeheartedly agree with you because I almost did not make it.
As of yesterday, we've been experiencing these
serious
rains,
rains, actually.
Serious rains. But it is January weather. We are coming to the end. We experienced these showers right around the end of January.
Well, I don't know what to say because it was hot a couple of days ago. Now we're getting some serious rainfall.
Yeah.
But as you said, we're in the month of January. So I say anything goes.
Yes.
And so from yesterday afternoon, we've been, at least in Belize City, we've been experiencing some serious showers, right? And that went through the night into the morning. And I almost did not make it to work on time because of the rain.
I don't know if that would have been a good excuse, because then I may say, how come I never sleep in either? Because in Cayo, we were experiencing the exact same weather conditions.
There are times you set an alarm, and there are times you hit the snooze button and figure you'll do it in 5 more minutes, and then before you know it, you're behind.
I once made the mistake of I didn't click snooze. I accidentally clicked stop, and then I closed my eyes and I counted to what I thought was 10.
You're counting sheep, actually.
I was gone. But yes, wherever you are, and I will say for our commuters that are about to step out, please be careful on that George Price Highway. It was raining the entire time I was coming up, nonstop. Up to when I got to Belize City. So wherever you are on that road, please be safe.
You know, there's always the right time to have conversations about road safety and what have you, right? I know that last week, in the wake of several fatal road traffic accidents, we spoke with the police department.
Yeah.
Now, road traffic and safety is not solely within the purview of the Belize Police Department, but there are laws and regulations that fall within road traffic and safety. And so the police department is tasked with, enforcing these laws. But all of that to say this, April, that we all have a responsibility when we use roads, highways, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't matter if you are a commuter, a motorist, cyclist, or pedestrian, as long as you're on that carriageway, you have a responsibility not only to yourself, but the other persons who are using or traversing that carriageway.
I agree.
And so I'm saying this, right? We've experienced inclement weather over the past I'd say 12 hours or so.
Yeah.
And we're going to be traveling into the city, out of the city, or wherever you are, you're going to be using the roads and the highways. It's incumbent upon you, the individual, to ensure your safety and, of course, the safety of others who are using that particular carriageway. So if it means driving 55 to stay alive, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know, the destination won't change.
No.
It's you getting there, and that's paramount. You have to always take care of yourself.
And of course, for those of you that do traverse that highway every day, I know the road now more than I ever had before. So there are certain spots that perhaps might not have enough light. Perhaps there are a lot of pedestrians that wait on the side of the road. Just be cautious, be mindful that other people are trying to do exactly as Sani say, get to the next area or from point A to point B. So just be as cautious and as safe as possible. And just speaking of caution and safety, one of the headlines on our What's Buzzing conversation is international airways.
Air traffic.
Air traffic in particular. We're moving from road traffic to air traffic, Isani. And I'm not sure if you've been looking at the many instances on social media of, it seems that some of our airlines, some of our airplanes are experiencing some defaults, if I could use that word. I did not see the first Alaska airline video of the plane having the door just
the bolts were
completely
loose.
And then the door completely came off, of course, and the aircraft was still up in the air, and somebody videoed it. But I did see a friend of mine video from inside the plane, the excessive turbulence that was taking place in the air, that led to the flight attendants, the pilot, everybody saying to like take severe. And these things happen, but there is a serious panic when the oxygen masks come down. And then you start to feel that fear of, oh my gosh, I'm in the air. What happens if something happens to this aircraft?
Well, we're discussing the issue of public transportation. So several parallels ought to be drawn. Where it doesn't matter if you're airborne, you're in a commuter bus, or you're out at sea in a shuttle or a ferry, you're dealing with the lives of numerous passengers. And so it goes back to what I was saying, not in the What's Buzzing, but before that, the idea of safety. Right? So you have these airlines, and perhaps several hundred passengers are on board. It should be a routine check to ensure the integrity of the aircraft in this case. The doors are working, the emergency exits are free and are also working, the engines and the deck in the cockpit, everything has to be
working to
in working order, so that when you take off and you recline your seat, you're comfortable and you're safe. But when you're airborne and something happens that's seemingly untoward, like this is not normal, like the door of the aircraft flying off,
the front landing gear is not working,
or an engine gives way mid-flight. Now, I could only imagine the paranoia. It has not happened to me. I pray to God that it doesn't ever. But for persons who are flying and you're experiencing this, and you're aloft 10, 15,000 feet.
You want to pray to whichever God is up there to assist you in some way,
I can only imagine. No, see, if you're on land, the bus driver could slow down and say, okay, you know what, we have problems with the engine, we need to, make the tow away. There's some comfort there.
Yes.
If you're out at sea and the engine gives way, you'll be adrift for a while. Until they're able to radar the Coast Guard or another ferry or shuttle to come and there's a transfer and you get back to mainland safely. But when you're midair, that's a whole nother ball game.
There was one airline, I believe, that was having technical difficulties and it turned back, right? So it wasn't that far away from the airport until it realized that it was having some technical difficulties and it turned its route back to the airport. But that doesn't always happen. Some of these airlines are in the middle of the ocean, right? And it's not to say, so what I wanted to kind of reiterate is that it's not, there are thousands of airlines out there, and these technical difficulties do happen on a daily basis. I think for us, though, the fact that social media is where most trends seem to occur, for the past 2 weeks or so, we've been seeing this constant reporting of technical difficulties on several airlines.
But it's a matter of happenstance, really. Where the coincidence, it's not just something, And if we are to have this conversation, I'm simply saying that majority of the aircrafts, the airlines, there is a systematic maintenance that takes place, right? It's akin to if you have a fleet of buses and you're experiencing 1 or 2 breakdowns as you go along. It's not to say that it's the entire fleet of buses that is faulty. It's the same thing with airlines, right? So if you're looking at certain companies, you have issues mid-flight or issues on the ground or what have you. You're looking at hundreds of planes. If you're looking at air traffic and transportation, like within the United States, for instance, you have all of these major companies. They have hundreds of aircrafts. So if you have that one experience, perhaps you can say it's isolated in a sense because you have so many other aircrafts that don't experience these kinds of problems
that we've
at
reported
all,
on or
right?
have been reported.
But the frequency, so if you have an Alaska last week and an American this week and a Delta, and then it raises that sense of,
and that's
okay,
what was
what's going
happening.
on?
And that's what was happening. And so I think that for anybody that is traveling through the air, I was telling our producer, I'm very afraid now. I don't know if it's going to be my plane next.
But you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. I read somewhere, let's say a year or so ago, and it served as a reminder, actually, that flying is virtually the safest way. You don't have as many incidents as you would have boating or traveling by land, right? And, you know, it's the mere fact that we're so many thousand feet above ground that raises its own concerns for us as passengers in an aircraft. But you don't hear reports of planes going down often. You don't hear reports of planes crashing into each other, you know. The way vehicles, motorcycles, you know, the way perhaps some boats or what have you would sink or you know, things happen mid-ocean, right? So, I mean, and of course perhaps it's to allay certain fears or certain concerns.
You're absolutely right. And it's, especially for us in Belize, where the way we attain a driver's license and so forth, and you know the measures, you have to have serious years of training to be a pilot. You have to be able to you
have to have sufficient flight time, hours. You accumulate hours, and that's how you're able to pilot your own aircraft.
Not just piloting, but being able to manage passengers in your aircraft as well. CPR, all of these trainings you need to have as a pilot. So it's not just anybody that's able to fly a plane. So, and one of the other things I will say is that for the flights that were reported to have these technical difficulties, no lives were lost. The planes were landed in an area that they were able to retrieve everybody.
You're talking about this, April, and I'm thinking of a movie that was based on actual events, Sully.
Yes.
Where
Captain Sully.
There were similar experiences, you know, mid-flight. And the pilot had to make a decision, right? We're going to land the aircraft in the Hudson.
Yes.
Which is totally unconventional, right? Because we're thinking aircrafts land on a runway. Taxis to the tarmac, and people, you know, disembark. Well, in this case, they were experiencing issues, some of the same issues we were discussing mid-flight, and a decision had to be made, and he was able to do so successfully. But all of that to say this, right? Pilots, co-pilots, the flight crew are, in essence, the custodians of our lives once we're on board. They have to ensure that everybody is safe. And so when certain things go awry, it's left up to the pilot or the captain to make a decision and says, okay, you know what, this is the best course of action to take. So if you're the passenger and you're panicking, he or she has to remain as calm as possible to ensure that, you know, okay, how do we navigate this situation?
I never want to be able to find out. That's my last say that I'm gonna have for this conversation. I don't want to find out.
Things happen.
Things do happen, and again, I'm so happy that no lives were lost.
Yeah.
Everybody was, safe and sound afterwards, and we're just gonna keep tabs. If it happened again this week, I'm gonna find out a conspiracy theory of some sort because I cannot. But
Man, the conspiracy theorists in you.
and they're everywhere because I've been watching some of the videos on Instagram and TikTok, and I'm like, I don't know what that says about the end of days. I don't think it was in the Bible that the planes would be crashing down.
Woman, let's not go there. we can't go all the way to the end of days.
But okay, so we can move on to more weather conditions for what's buzzing topics. As we have been experiencing rain here in Belize, our friends in the north have been experiencing severe below 20 degree weather. There have been people that
Look, I was having this very conversation with Sabrina last Wednesday.
Week. Yeah, I saw.
And not much has changed for my friends in Chicago or the Midwest since, right?
No. People can't move.
Yeah, no, but here's the thing, right? It's not something that is a phenomenon per se. This is this is what you've come to expect this time of year, right? In certain parts of the US. Now, in other areas where it doesn't often snow or get frigid, it's cause for concern. I'm like, okay, Texas,
Houston is experiencing
doesn't really
snow.
come down this kind of way. But Chicago, you'd say it's par for the course because it's always cold in Chicago in winter time.
It is, but I think that the impacts of the ice storm in the U.S. and how it's coming down to the southern states it makes you wonder what the people are going to do next, because this is not the first year we've been seeing this. It's been happening for a couple of years now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not a phenomenon per
but
se.
The fact that certain homes are not built for this type of weather, certain cars are not built for this kind of weather. You need to be able to have access to like snow tires and these kinds of things in certain parts of the U.S.
I'll say this, April. You can't live in a particular location and not take certain measures up front. So if you live in Chicago, I'll use that as an example here, you know that in winter time it can get sub-zero.
Yes.
So weatherproofing is everything, right? So when you're building or you're renting an apartment, you have to ensure that there's insulation. You have to ensure that in the summer where there's extreme heat, you have the air conditions and what have you. It's similar like if you're living in Arizona, where it's
intense
pretty hot.
Heat.
Yeah, you have to be able to weatherproof equally to make sure that your home is insulated so that the AC, when you're using it, everything remains indoors, right?
But if you're living in California or in Texas where you're experiencing this cold and your house is not built for it, you don't have a fireplace, you don't have all of this.
So it's something that would be fairly new to you, right? And you're not adequately prepared.
I believe there was a year where some of the pipes were frozen over and people weren't able to get water to come in. So and that is a call for concern. I think that is where my brain goes when these kinds of weather changes start to happen, because I say to myself, so when is it that we're going to experience this freezing over, if you will?
I empathize with them. I've had my fair share when I was living abroad.
Yeah.
I don't miss it.
Nope.
And it's the reason I'm saying give me rain any day over snow, sleet, or hail.
You ever tried bike through hail? And
No, I wouldn't
it's
either.
The worst ever.
I'm a black man. We don't do certain things that, put us out there.
But as this snowstorm is freezing over up in the north, and we were looking at some of the videos that were showing people are slipping on ice, and I think it goes back to exactly what you're saying. Be prepared for the weather. You're not gonna go out in certain shoes that will not have a particular break. You're gonna, I used to wear, kind of find tropics. You go up in that kind of weather, I am wearing like 5 layers, 6 layers because nothing is warm enough to put on when you're experiencing below 20-degree weather.
There's thermal attire, right?
There is no such thing. I had on thermal socks and my toes were still cool. But
technology has it to where you're able to, narrow it down to 1 or 2 layers at the very most. But the fabric is able to, harness your body heat and keep you warm naturally, right?
6 layers is on it. 6 layers, nothing less. But yeah, wherever you are, whether you are in North America or in Northern Europe, please take care. Because I speak to my sister, she's cold. And of course, with these kinds of weathers come things like flu, other sorts of sickness. So it's
we've
all
had
fun
our
and
share
games,
of the flu season.
yes, until
these
somebody
past
gets
few
sick.
weeks. Yeah.
But wherever you are, please be safe, be cautious. I think we've been talking a lot about caution and safety for like the past 20 minutes.
The order of the day.
It's the order of the day. If that doesn't tell you to be safe, I don't know what would. But as we move on with our show for this morning, as we do here every Monday on Open Your Eyes, we bring you the Eye on the News.
So I will use this segment of the show for the Eye on the News to be able to opine and weigh in on what we've been covering for the better part of last week with the allegations that have been brought against a well-known attorney who works out of his office here in Belize City. I will begin by echoing the sentiments of my colleague Jules Vasquez, who had an opinion, an op-ed, essentially, on Friday on the matter.
Yeah.
And the perspective that I'm taking on this is the fact that we have the established media, and we have what we term as new media. New media essentially speaks to the social media space, where you have a rise of all of these outlets, if I could use that description. But then there is the regulated media, where, for instance, the Belize Broadcasting Authority oversees how we operate. The rules, the ethics, and all of these other things that we're governed by. And so if you and our viewers would notice that we refrain from calling any names or anything of this sort because charges haven't been brought against the individual, so we have to be able to respect that. Now, I will also say, admittedly, that we did not exercise the same caution for other persons who have been brought upon allegations of sexual misconduct and what have you, where we've proceeded to name these individuals before they were charged. And I'll say a mea culpa where that is concerned, we're guilty as charged. But in this particular instance, we've been treading fairly carefully, not to mention any names or what have you. But when you use your social media platform, which in some cases, or for the most part, doubles as our competition as the real media. I say real media because we're established. We are professionals at what we do. Others try our thing, so to speak, right? And oftentimes they miss the target, but that's another conversation. But when you use your platform to target persons who, for all intents and purposes, have legitimate claims against you, the individual, and you weaponize it in a manner where you're attempting to, if not altogether aiming to discredit whatever account these persons are saying in their claim against you. That violates everything, if you ask me, right? I work here at Channel 5. I'm the news director here. If an allegation were to be brought against me, right, I can't use my news platform to say, okay, yes, I am being accused of such an offense, but here's the evidence that says you're lying or what have you. Can't, right?
Yeah.
You can't. You simply have to allow due process so that if there is a claim or an allegation brought against me and it is before the courts, then that's where it remains.
That's where you put it, yeah.
The prosecutor, the judge, and all those individuals who operate within that system, they are the ones who have to determine culpability, right? If I'm guilty or not guilty or what have you, based on the evidence that's presented. But I can't jump on News 5 and say, okay, we'll run a lead story that says I am innocent and this person is lying or what have you. And so it brings to serious question, you know, the ethics of it all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There are certain parameters within which we operate that says, you know what, we have to consider not only our audience, but ourselves in the manner and the conduct in which we carry out our business, right? And the long and short of it is that, as I mentioned before, we are governed by the Broadcasting Authority. When we step out of line, the BVA comes in and says, okay, you're in breach of ABC based on these sets of rules. But the social media space is Wild West. It's ungoverned. No law governing. You could just determine one day you are open your own news page or whatsoever, and you have all of these 1,000 followers who believe that what you're saying is gospel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's no room for checks and balances. Nobody knows what they're doing, and they're operating in the dark.
And in another country, or in another system where, let's say, that case would have been determined by a jury, you wouldn't be very difficult to find an unbiased jury that would be able to not take that statement into consideration, and then that kind of creates a discrepancy, or it disrupts the flow of that judicial system, if you will, right? So how many people have seen the statement, and how many people would be able to create an unbiased opinion based on that statement? And of course, what has been given on the news. So it kind of throws out everything that our judicial system would have been working towards, if that were the way, you know.
Well, if we're going to sort of segue into that, the office of the DPP has its work cut out for it in terms of being able to review the files that have been brought by the police department in terms of their investigation. So they are to determine what, if any, charges will be brought against the individual. And so many of us are, you know, standing by what's going to happen or what have you. But you have to allow time for the process to take its course. So if it's a matter of crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's, or if perhaps there's nothing there for you to proceed with any charges with the individual, we have to understand that too. But I'm saying that aside from what the DPP's office is doing, there has to be some measure of responsibility in all of this, right? In terms of our coverage of it, in terms of what we're discussing here, the individual using that platform to target these individuals who are perhaps legitimately bringing a claim against the attorney.
And our cyber laws are relatively new, they're young. We haven't properly, well, I personally haven't properly you know, read through all of it or revised it if I would have seen any such revision needed. But like, I wonder then if this is the case, Sanim, and if these allegations claim to be true or untrue, would it be then that somebody reports that post for it to be taken down? I mean, the cyber laws work within Belize, but social media is not run by us or anything like that. So then how do you even begin to make these
well, that's the thing that I'm
posts
saying,
go
right?
away, right?
That's the thing that I'm saying. It is so vast and expansive. Nobody's going to get on the phone and call Mark Zuckerberg and say, hey, we got our Facebook post. We need to take it down because it's slanderous, defamatory, A, B, C, D. It just exists out there in the ether, right? Whereas in our case, once we are at fault for putting something out there that is erroneous, inaccurate, so on and so forth, we face specific sanctions, right?
Yes.
You could send us a letter that says you have to retract and apologize because you've brought that person into disrepute without actually, checking the facts to make sure that what you're doing is accurate based on what you're publishing or broadcasting or what have you. So we have those checks and balances. Out there in the social media realm,
that doesn't
every man for himself.
I mean, there are certain spaces where us as the individual, as civil society, we have a duty to report these things.
Yeah.
Right. There are ways that you can, and then of course certain posts are removed. We abuse that power sometimes, but in certain cases like these ones, it's important that you exercise that right.
I think the conversation though is centered around the fact that while yes, there are these claims, it's the responsibility that we exercise, right? As persons who are enlightening and informing and educating our audience, right? Because that is our charge, that is our mission, that what we do has to fall within those, parameters.
Yeah.
But we understand that, right? Because when we take the job, there are certain expectations of us, right? And then we go through trainings and continuous education to understand that when things change, we ought to change with it, right?
Yes,
and so we employ certain best practices and what have you. But out there, anything goes. And that's what I'm reiterating.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that Belizeans, and I hate to be calling it what it is, but we lend a lot of credence to things that we see on Facebook, or Instagram, or TikTok, or whatever the platform is within the social media space. That becomes Bible.
Yes.
And so that has been our biggest competition for a while, because even when there's a breaking news event and someone goes live, it's not to say that that individual has done everything to fully ventilate the story so that when it is presented, there are all of these points that you're checking. Okay. Accuracy, timeliness, and all of these other things. That goes out the door, because the citizen journalist in us says, this is what we're seeing and this is what we're calling it to be.
Yeah.
But there are no rules that say, okay, am I doing it the right way? Am I presenting it in a manner in which I am upholding the ethics of the profession?
Yeah.
All of that goes out the door. We just put the information there,
then, of
for
course,
better or worse.
The media has to pick up the pieces. You do still have to do your investigative journalism to get the proper news, but by then, it's out there.
Yeah.
Right? But these are the issues that gave rise to people like Donald Trump. These are the issues that gave rise to people that go on and say, oh, well, this is fake news, this is fake this,
and I'm glad you said that, because
he created his own social media platform after
I'm glad you said that, because in all of what I'm sharing, I'm saying that the act of weaponizing your platform to attack someone else is in a manner very Trumpian.
Yeah, it is.
It's something that we would have seen happen elsewhere.
See, and it becomes such a, and this is where the power of those that own that platform come into play, because even after he, disregarded what was what would have been factual news, factual evidence, and all that, they banned him. And then he said, now I'll just create my own social media.
Yeah.
And that's where he does his rants, which also talks about the lack of law ethics and so forth when you're using social media platforms anyways. So even if you are banning a person from these platforms and they go on and they still create something else to spew whatever they need to spew, it still shows that we don't have that control on social media. So then what happens next?
We have a long way to go, but again, from the legal perspective, just to round off the conversation here, you know, as I mentioned, the matter is before the DPP, and a decision will be made whether or not there is sufficient evidence to proceed with a charge or charges, or whether or not this is altogether dismissed as something where you don't have enough to go on to be able to prefer charges on the individual. But we're waiting to see. I mean, that's all we can do at this point. But I'll end by saying that all eyes are on the matter. I spoke with the Minister of Human Development and Social Transformation, so on and so forth, on Friday. And she expressed her concern and dismay with the allegations being brought against the individual. And I'm certain that other agencies are watching carefully how this entire scenario unfolds, right? Because you're looking at someone of prominence who you could say is abusing his power and influence, you know. And when you have these kinds of allegations that are very serious and weighty, perhaps you have others who are victims who have been suffering in silence all these years or however long. And in some cases, it only takes one or two persons to come forward and say, I am a recent victim. This thing that has happened to me 2-3 days ago. It empowers other persons to come forward and say, well, you know what, this thing happened to me too. But I've been suffering quietly and I didn't know who to turn to or what to do. So I kind of reserved or resigned myself to dealing with it on my own. But when you have persons come forward, there's a sense of confidence that says, okay, well, me too.
We've seen it. We've seen it happen, particularly most of last year as well. And so I think we're becoming better at holding these individuals accountable. And so we'll just have to see how this particular case plays out. All
right, so that brings us to the end of our Eye on the News. I just wanted to put that out there because I wouldn't have had the opportunity to comment on it in the newscast itself. So I decided to use this medium to share my thoughts on that. But that brings us to the end of our Eye on the News segment for this morning.
Moving on with the weather forecast for today, Isan. It's all about cold and snow and rain in certain parts of the world. But we bring to you the forecast for today, brought to you by the National Meteorological Service of Belize.
Good morning, Belize. A moist and relatively unstable airflow prevails. Later, our airflow will become windy and less moist. The 24-hour forecast for Belize and her coastal waters calls for cloudy skies today with outbreaks of showers and periods of rain affecting most areas of the country, but more so along central and northern districts. Tonight, skies will be partly cloudy and showers will be isolated. High temperatures today are expected to reach 80 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, to 77 inland and 68 over the mountains. Low temperatures tonight will drop to 77 along the coast, to 68 inland and 64 in the higher elevations. The winds will blow from the east to southeast at 10 to 20 knots, becoming gusty at times. A small craft caution remains in effect for occasionally gusty winds and rough seas. A high tide will occur at 8:55 a.m., followed by a low at 1:06 p.m. Another high occurs at 7:41 p.m. and a low at 3:22 a.m. The sun will rise at 6:26 this morning and set at 5:42 p.m. The moon comes up at 3:05 this afternoon and set at 4:52 tomorrow morning. The outlook for Tuesday and Tuesday night is for fair and windy conditions, and showers will be isolated. In the sargassum forecast, No significant amounts of sarcasm expected for the next week or so, followed by a gradual increase thereafter. And that was your morning forecast that was prepared here at the National Meteorological Service.
So it'll keep raining, at least for today
Yeah.
and tomorrow. But let's try to keep it light and positive here on OIE this lovely Monday morning as we bring to you the eye-opener taken from dailyom.com, and it goes like this. When we present ourselves to the world without a persona and keep it real, we offer the same opportunity for others to do the same. Most of us are familiar with the idea of keeping it real and have an intuitive sense about what that means. People who keep it real don't hide behind a persona to keep themselves safe from their fear of how they might be perceived. They don't present a false self in order to appear more perfect, more powerful, or more independent. People who keep it real present themselves as they truly are, the good parts and the parts most of us would rather hide, sharing their full selves with the people who are lucky enough to know them. Being real in this way is not an easy thing to do, as we live in a culture that often shows us images of physical and material perfection. People like this inspire us to let go of our own defenses and relax for a moment in the truth of who we really are. In their presence, we feel safe enough to take off our personas and experience the freedom of not hiding behind a barrier. Those of us who were lucky enough to have a parent who was able to keep it real may find it easier to be that way ourselves. The rest of us may have to work a little harder to let go of our pretendness and share the beauty and humor of our real selves. Our reward for taking such a risk is that we will attract and inspire others, giving them the permission to be real too. I like this eye opener.
I don't.
You don't?
It's not very often that I do not
like an eye opener.
Yeah.
That's supposed to give you positivity.
But then I'm saying that I don't simply because the idea of quote unquote keeping it real, I think it's overdone.
Okay.
It's overthought, if that's a word. Because it's all relative. What may be real to me
May not be real
may not
to
necessarily
me.
be real
Yeah.
to you. So when you're saying, oh, he not real or that not real or
How you know? Yeah.
right? So it's from that perspective that I'm saying that I don't know that I agree fully with what is being shared. Now, conceptually, I understand what the eye opener is saying, but I can sit here comfortably and say that I don't know that it applies to me in that regard, because my idea of being real is to self first and foremost. I have to be real myself, right? I have to make sure that whatever the situation is and my position in that big picture, I'm comfortable with where I am in that space. That is real to me.
Yeah.
If you see it differently, then you walk away with an impression that says, he is not real.
Yeah.
What he's saying is not, it is
Well,
what it is.
I thought of it in a way of just you're always yourself and you be yourself all the time, and that is where you inspire others to be themselves. But you're right, you don't know. Like my idea of real is the fact that I am who I am, and I will be weird whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And of course your idea of weird is relative as well. But wherever you are today, we hope that this eye opener inspires you to be who you are and be yourself in whatever space that you find yourself to be. Yeah. All right, we are moving on with our show for this morning, Isani. Our first and second conversation will be surrounded around first-time voting. We know that the municipal elections are coming up. We have some young, eager Belizeans that are willing to sit with us and talk about what this election would mean to them, what democracy would mean to them on a whole. So I'm very curious to see what they have to say.
Our second and final conversation will be about the development strategy for 2024. That being said, we will be joined by the CEO in the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment to talk to us about what we can expect in 2024 by way of projects that the government of Belize is undertaking.
Right, but we're going to take the break, and when we come back, it's all about thoughts and concerns for first-time voters. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Get your body sculpted with gym equipment and accessories from Benny's. Quality and savings.
This plan, I can't leave this plan. Smart Belize.
Hey there, smart thinkers! We're turbocharging your mobile experience with Smart's powered up postpaid plans. Imagine a world where your data speeds flows faster than ever. Well, guess what? We've cranked up the dial and unleashed the postpaid power of Smart's lightning fast LTE data on all our postpaid plans. That's right, no speed bumps, more data. It's like having a limitless highway of data speed at your fingertips. Whether you're a Lone Ranger with an individual plan or a squad rolling with a group plan, everyone gets to surf, stream, and share at enhanced full high-quality speed. Switch to Smart's powered-up postpaid plans today and ride the wave of postpaid power. Visit any Smart showroom or smart-bz.com for details and make your mobile experience smarter and faster. Smart, bringing people together.
I know I can't leave this plan. I can't leave this plan.
Hola usuario de eCash, la aplicación eCash está disponible en español. Cambiar el idioma de tu aplicación de eCash de inglés a español es rápido y sencillo. Déjame mostrarte cómo se hace. Primero, abre tu aplicación eCash. Introduce tu PIN. Toca el icono More en la parte inferior de tu pantalla. Selecciona Security. Selecciona Language. Y luego selecciona Spanish. Vuelve a introducir tu PIN y ya está. Tu aplicación de eCash está ahora en español y puedes seguir disfrutando de tu cartera digital eCash. La aplicación eCash de Belize Bank te hace la vida más fácil.
Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote special, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
And welcome back. We are embarking upon a conversation with a pair of first-time voters, April,
Yes.
and they are here this morning to share with us their perspectives on what the process will be like for them come March 6th, right?
Yeah.
So they will officially cast a
Cast
ballot
their ballots.
as Belizeans in the democratic process with the municipals on March 6th. That being said, we have with us this morning Tameen Otley. She's no stranger to us here at OIE. Good morning, Tameen.
Good morning.
And she's joined by Filani Palacio, who's also a first-time voter.
Voter.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, ladies. Let's first, before we get into the discussion, you do have your voter's ID.
I just registered like
Just
2
registered.
weeks ago. I should be getting it next month.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, as for me, I bring a younger perspective to the table because this March I won't be able to vote, but in the future I
Okay.
will. Yes.
Okay. Alrighty.
In time for the generals.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to start the conversation by asking, well, since you've already registered, Filani, was that one of the first things that you thought of doing when you realized that you were able to exercise your right to vote?
If I am being honest, voting wasn't something that was my top priority. The elections, the politics and everything, it didn't really pique my interest until I started at Wested Junior College actually, where I'm a paralegal student. So that increased my knowledge on my rights and everything that is of access to me as of right now. So it piqued my interest because I think we as youth should be a part of the solution, not the problem. And we do have a voice and we do have the power to make a change in our country.
So I listen to you and I hear what you're saying, but as much as we talk about youth empowerment in the political space, we don't hear as often the voices of young people where social issues are concerned, but viewing it through political lenses, right? You have certain youth movement here and there, but it's almost as if they either come and go or they fall on deaf ears. It's more the resounding voices of the various political organizations that you hear. And so for young people, you either have to join the youth arm of the political organization,
Yes.
and then you're essentially branded. Because even if you have legitimate concerns that you want to be able to raise and voice as a young person, the moment you
Stick into one of those. Yeah.
then you're seen as only that.
Yeah.
So it's no longer a matter of looking at the issue itself, but looking at the person in that
Yeah.
particular organization.
Right. That's why I think we should also be independent thinkers, be open-minded. Not just because we were born in one party, we should stay in that, or because we know him, we know her, we should stay in that. And like you said, sometimes it falls on deaf ears. That's why I think one person can always be a voice for the general public. That's why we should be voting for the people that actually care about the community, will not be the deaf ear, and that want to make the actual change in the city.
Yeah.
Let's step back a bit then. Let me ask you both what your views are on democracy and the way democracy is being exercised in this country. So we all have a right to vote. That's our constitutional and democratic right to cast a ballot for whoever we deem fit to be in public office, right? But with everything that you've seen growing up as young women, what informs your decision that you will register and you will cast a vote in the next election?
Well, as for me, from all the various types of government, I do align the most with democracy. I believe in it, and I feel like it's important that everyone feels as if they're a part, or everyone is a part of the overall decision for a country. So that's my first point, that I agree with democracy. However, looking at it from a technical standpoint, some people may not exercise their right for democracy because of the political culture here in Belize. As you said, from a young girl, I always have been fed negative thoughts when it comes to politics, like, oh, corruption happens and it's just the same parties over and over and stuff like that. So I strongly feel like our political culture and the political culture that is being passed down from generation to generation is influencing what we see in the ballots, because younger people have heard, oh, voting and politics is all bad for most of their lives, so that affects what they do when it comes down to that specific day.
Let's get your thoughts, Filani.
When it comes to politics and a democracy, like she said, I do believe in a democratic government because I do believe we do have the free will. We should be open, we should be honest to vote for who we choose. I do agree with a lot of things that she said where politics is overwhelming, it's negative, but I feel like I said, we should just be the voice. Regardless of what we heard, we should do our own research, get to know the people in our city council on maybe a personal basis so that we know who we're putting in office, so that we know how we can move forward from there.
We have this saying, and it's not just in Belize, it's anywhere, where I don't see my concerns being raised, and therefore I don't think it makes sense that I vote, because this democratic right that you are talking about, you and I might not want the same things from a political leader, and I am seeing perhaps it maybe just 1% of the country benefits from somebody. So why is it that, what sense does it make that I exercise my vote, right? So what are your thoughts on these kinds of conversations? Because I'm sure you have them where, well, I don't vote because nothing changed anyways, right? Let's get your thoughts on it, both of you.
Well, I understand sometimes you may feel defeated as if your vote doesn't matter, but if you look at the demographic in Belize, young people make up a majority of that. So therefore, if every young person decides, you know what, I'm gonna give it a try, my voice does matter, as a collective, we will see change in those ballots. So I think everyone's vote matters, and if we try to start putting our votes and actually giving it a chance, eventually we'll see that making an impact.
Yes, I do think that we should be open-minded because I do have a lot of those conversations with my friends. I turned 18 3 years ago, actually, and I just registered this year. Because I am noticing that if we do take a stand, if we do participate, then we will be able to make a change. I think automatically going to politics on a negative standpoint, that's the reason why there is no real change, or maybe there is, like, they're not really taking us seriously then, because it's like they don't really care. So if we do, do our research, act on our rights, read the Constitution, and go off facts, I think young people will get the mind, the mentality that voting does make a difference.
So what are your thoughts then on the prevailing two-party system? Because if you look at the history of voting in this country, it's predicated essentially on what is blue or what is red. We've never really given a third party an option to say, well, let's go with something new and fresh that is different from the established order, so to speak, right? But when you look at what is blue and what is red, you don't always get the best candidates. Sometimes you get people who are just on the bandwagon because the party is popular in that moment or what have you. You're not getting the free thinkers, you're not getting the progressive people who would come with new ideas. You're getting, in my opinion, the same old, but those are the only options that you have, because in our mentality, we don't look at an alternative as something that is viable. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I believe it comes down to political culture. As a society, we can't say, oh, only these parties are competent. Once the people running in a different party are showing the facts, they are showing their qualifications, and they're willing to make a change that based on what the people would like, then I feel like as a society we need to give them that opportunity.
Yeah.
Because just because a party has longevity doesn't mean that they're more qualified than another.
Yeah.
That's correct, and I do agree. And I do see that there are more young people running in the municipal elections this year. I feel like they know more than likely the standpoint that the new adults, us, are coming from. So I think that they will be more open-minded. I do believe in giving them that chance. If anything goes wrong, then we can obviously, you know, we do have that right to not vote them back in anymore.
Yeah.
But I think giving them that chance and being open-minded is the right way to go.
You said that now that you were a paralegal student, that kind of influenced you a little bit to get your voter's ID and
Yes.
so forth. But for both of you, were there any local issues or any issues that you saw in your community or in the country that you felt perhaps now is the time I need to get my my voter's ID, I will get my voter's ID and I will vote next year? Are there any issues that you were seeing that you think needed you to exercise your right to vote?
I think just speaking for the young people, having conversations with my colleagues, with my classmates, with my associates, I think that if we keep going, if we keep keeping ourselves open, one person every year maybe that registers new, or I think it does make a difference, and I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of the solution where we can see the change. I think just opening up or broadening the group of people that actually have a voting license and exercise that right.
Yeah.
I think that's why I wanted to vote. Make sure that the issues that we were talking about, that my friends maybe said that I'm not voting because it's not going to change. I want to be able to vote so that the change can be made.
Yeah.
All right, so your first voter experience will be March 6th.
Yes.
You're voting here in Belize City.
Yes.
As far as I am aware, it's not before nomination day, right? So nomination day will determine actually who will be participating at the candidate or mayoral, well, at the candidate level. But as far as I'm aware, there are 3 groups vying, right? You have the UDP, the PUP, and the Yellow Party, which is a fairly new movement that, you know, came forward. When you look at the candidates, when you look at the potential for change, when you look at the incumbent, which is the actual party that's in power, and their candidates who have been working in and around Belize City, for you, the individual, what informs your vote? What are you looking at in terms of saying to yourself, these are the things that I want to see from the group? Because in this case, you're voting for a slate, so the group of persons who are going to be running municipal government.
I think qualifications I'm looking for is definitely professionalism. You have to know what you're doing, basically. You have to be of the community.
Yeah.
You cannot be in this position because of fame, of the money. You have to actually love what you're doing, love your country, love the people in the country. And I think because I'm seeing so much young people in the municipal elections this year, I think that they would be able to do that. So also what I'm looking for is openness to growth, to improvement, open to criticism as well. If you are doing a bad job, we as voters can be able to tell you, you know, we need this from you, we need that from you. I think more help in the educational system, more help in the rehabilitation system. I definitely do think we need that, especially places like hostel, places like the children's home. I think we need to bring up our children in better ways. So that's what I'm looking for in my candidates.
Yeah.
As for me, the main thing that I'm looking for in a candidate when my time comes around to vote is relatability. Like, I don't want to vote someone that I feel is detached from my world or the world of the average Belizean. When I look at a candidate, I'm trying to look at someone who reflects the Belizean people on a whole, so relatability, and as she said, professionalism, and of course, a very good quality, being open to criticism, because if they're in this position and they're not listening to the people, that kind of like throws out the whole democratic aspect of it on a whole. So yeah.
It's interesting that you would look to relatability as one of the factors that influences your vote, because one can argue perhaps that during a campaign we're all for the people, right? We go house to house and we promise her this and promise her that and hold up a picnic and play with it. Yeah, all of that, right? But then when they're voted into office, that's where the detachment comes, right?
Yes.
Because everybody feels now that, oh, they don't need to come back into the neighborhood anytime soon. So they govern from the office and not necessarily on the ground to see what your immediate needs are as a constituent, right? So the idea of relatability, perhaps in that point, from that point of view, is something that I appreciate what you're saying, but the reality of it is oftentimes not the same, right?
It comes
How many
down to-
times have we not voted for an area rep who we don't see once they already take office? They send their minions and everybody else who is well below them, as opposed to the person who came to you during the campaign that sat with you and shared their vision. And then when they took office, that vision is fleeting.
Yeah.
So I think you need to use your discretion when it comes to relatability, because some do put on that facade to get that immediate vote. But when I'm talking of relatability, it's for the long term, not only for that immediate moment so you can buy me over or win my vote. It's that you're going to be aware and you're going to be involved in the community for entire term.
Yeah. When you are talking about voting, exercising that democratic right and so forth, you're gonna get your license. You're in the process of getting yours. When you were younger, and you were in high school, or you're coming up into college, I know you said that you never thought about it or anything like that, but what were you taught in school when it comes to this particular process? What do you think it's going to look like? What were you told it would be like? And what were your expectations?
From my standpoint, we were kind of forced to vote. It wasn't really something of free will or democracy. It was just something that you have to do. You have the right, so do it. So I never looked at it as something important as well, because of I was involved in the elections because my dad ran, I think like 10, 12 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So I was in the ins and out of it, and I saw how sometimes it can get corrupted, sometimes you have to win people over, you have to do this and bribery, and I was like, I don't want to be a part of any of that.
Right.
I want actual change, like in my country, meaningful change, purposeful change. So that I can raise my future children in a country that is developed, that is fulfilled, and that actually wants to hear from the people. So at that point, when I was 18, I did not care about voting. I did not care about the elections. But like I said, growing up now, doing my own research and realizing that this is a very serious issue, and we do have the right now, we do have the accessibility to do it now, so that we should exercise it.
Well, as for me, I have like sporadic memories with, you know, seeing my mom, my aunts come home with like their finger painted, and it always piqued my interest.
Dipped in the indelible ink.
Yes, and I must say a point that I want to raise is we need to start to involve the youth from a young age. I must commend like my primary school. We did like mock election and debate when it came along with the ICJ issue, and that made me feel like I had a choice. Like at the end, we showed the results, and I feel like if we start to encourage children that their decision and their vote matters from a young age, it may change that overall perspective as to, oh, politics is corrupt. It's not even, don't even involve yourself in that. I feel like if we could impact them from they're young and let them recognize that your vote makes a change, because I think the election, it was off by a couple votes, so like, you know, they really had the voice, and that encouraged me to think, okay, in the future, I want my finger painted as well.
Well, we have to continue this conversation, ladies, but before we continue, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more of our first-time voters. Stay with us.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
This plan, I can't leave this plan. Smart Belize.
Hey there, smart thinkers! We're turbocharging your mobile experience with Smart's powered-up postpaid plans. Imagine a world where your data speeds flows faster than ever. Well, guess what? We've cranked up the dial and unleashed the postpaid power of Smart's lightning-fast LTE data on all our postpaid plans. That's right, no speed bumps, more data. It's like having a limitless highway of data speed at your fingertips. Whether you're a lone ranger with an individual plan or a squad rolling with a group plan, everyone gets to surf, stream, and share at enhanced full high-quality speed. Switch to Smart's powered-up postpaid plans today and ride the wave of postpaid power. Visit any Smart showroom or smart-bz.com for details and make your mobile experience smarter and faster. Smart, bringing people together.
I know I can't leave this plan. I can't leave this plan.
If we all don't come together and work together to change the bigger climate picture, these efforts will be in vain.
It's right there.
I believe that we have something special that is also a secret right now, which is unexplored, undiscovered.
I've been with the sugar fishermen all morning, catching lobster and conch, and then we realized it's time for lunch. And man, it's gonna be good. I think they deserve it.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank Contactless MasterCard Debit Card. Introducing our Standard Debit and MasterCard Platinum Debit Cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
Welcome back. We are continuing our conversation. If you're joining us right now, we have with us Plani Palacio and Tameen Otley, and they are first-time voters in this municipal and in this general election that is coming on our way soon. Just getting their views and opinions on elections in Belize, democracy in Belize, why they vote, why they don't vote. And we're going to segue into the not voting aspect of the conversation, because it has just dawned on me that our friend here, a fellow news reporter and news director, has never voted. Isane, please explain to me your philosophy.
My fingers are virgin.
So it's never been dipped in the ink of democracy. Why? Please explain to me your thoughts, because you are somebody that I would imagine is a free thinker. You are a progressive civilian in society. So what's going on here?
Okay, so I'll begin by firstly saying that I am anti-establishment when it comes to certain things.
Okay,
right?
You're a rebel.
Right. So I don't subscribe to institutions and stuff like that, right? But that's on an aside. As an individual, and I hope this does not serve to deter you guys or anybody else that's watching, it's just my own point of view here. I've been sort of disillusioned from the very beginning when I look at what the options are and what the political ideologies of the respective parties are. So while on the surface they are saying we are for the people and about the people and of the people, when you look at the candidates, when you look at the organization and what it ultimately stands for, if you're somebody who looks at things very carefully and critically, the whole idea of it is self-serving, right? And so if I look at red and I look at blue, I draw the same conclusion, that only the people who are closest to the hierarchy of it will be the ones to benefit from it. And the people who are lower on the ladder are just there as stalwarts and sycophants and all of these people who are waving the flag, and they don't really get the kind of service that they need.
Wouldn't that be lack of education in terms of lack of understanding?
Call it what you may. Call it what you may. I'm looking at it from that point of view where I'm saying, look, you have the person who will be a part of that campaign team, right? And they will walk with the area rep or walk with the councillors or what have you. Then you have the persons who are in the background somewhere who are doing the planning. But when that party rises to power, the person who was walking on the ground with you is less likely to get anything in terms of the services that they need to uplift them versus the person who was back there who already has something that stands to gain more. And I think that is what has me disillusioned from the beginning. That I think it holds true on either side of the divide.
I agree in the sense of, and this is something that we've been talking about for the better part of 5 years, where, and our young voters have also said it, you should not go into politics in Belize for the money, for the making of it. Ideally.
But realistically, that's what the game is.
That's what happens, and it shouldn't be, because at the end of the day, I know you don't like this word, but they are public servants. They are supposed to be there to serve the people.
To work for the people who empower them.
For the people. That money that they're coming into shouldn't be for them. It's supposed to be for the population. And so when it comes to the development and the foundations of the democracy in Belize in particular, it was corrupt from the get-go. So you have to understand that in order for us to get better, you have to break that establishment and create a new system.
Let me put this to Philani and Tamien then, right? March 6th, somewhere in 2025 for you, Tamien, you're going to vote for a Belize City Council March 6th. You're going to vote for an area representative in 2025, right? Are you, let me start with you, Tamien. Are you thereafter prepared to stand in line for a clinic day on Wednesday to see your area representative, only to be told, you know, they see nobody today, or we done full for today, and you will never get, or let me not say never, the chances of you getting an audience with that individual to address whatever needs you have, if you want a piece of land, if you want some kind of access to healthcare in your community or what have you, all of that now hinges on the decision of that area representative, but you have to wait in line, and you'll be lucky that your number comes up enough for you to have that audience with that individual who, when he or she was campaigning, comes to you and asks you what you want, or what do you need, or what do you believe the community needs. Are you prepared to do that?
Well, as we previously discussed, it comes down to them doing that initial facade of saying that, oh, I'll be with you, I'll meet your needs whatsoever. And as you raised, we're the people who employed them. So imagine that you're like the boss and your employee is telling you, I won't come into work today because I don't want to. It's like that. So of course you would feel upset. You would feel betrayed in a sense and deceived, because you told me one thing and now your actions are speaking for a next.
But you can't fire them until 3 years later.
Or 5 years.
Or 5 years later.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that kind of issue then, where you can't now access your area reps, or you can't access your local government?
I mean, unfortunately, that is the reality of the situation. They will put up that facade, they'll give us our cupcake for the first week or so. And, you know,
the honeymoon phase is what I call it.
Yes.
After that is
the puppy love stage.
Yeah.
I mean, while we're in that stage, it's like we just have to give them our trust at that point. We are limited, honestly, with the parties and with the people, but I think at least giving them that chance, I'm very, very open-minded to the opportunities and what they can give to us. I think starting things like this, where we do have the youth saying exactly what we want changed and what we want in our country, what we want for the future. I think starting like this, letting them hear it, even though it may fall on deaf ears. Keep saying it, so those deaf ears are on deaf. So somebody hears us, because something has to change. There has to be some type of, you know, improvement.
Do you find that these conversations are happening more amongst you and your friends? Because I know you guys are here today, you're talking to Isania and I, we more have a bit of a feel of the way politics runs in Belize. You guys are up and coming in this conversation, but are your friends having these conversations? Is it something to say that it's naive to believe that young people don't understand their democratic right to vote?
I think that's very fair to say. A lot of the conversations that I have with my fellow paralegal colleagues is that nothing's going to change. It doesn't make any sense. I'm going to go register, maybe get a $20, $50 from, you know, wherever place. But just because of that. Like I said, I do my own personal research. I try to get to know these people on a personal basis. Whether that be red, whether that be blue, yellow, purple, white. Whoever is running, I want to give them that chance. But I do think that we do need to have more of the conversations where it's factual, not on any type of bribery or any of that.
So let's stick a pin there then. So let me ask you guys your thoughts on handout politics. Because it's a reality, right? In Belize, everybody is in it for what they can get. So we are at a point where you want my vote,
give me something.
you give me $50,
Right.
or something that's the equivalent of, or whatever it is. But it's not that I have sat down and really contemplated the power of my vote and how effective that will be in changing certain things. It's about you need, I want. So let's trade. And then you get what you need, I get what I
That's
want.
just for the day.
And it upholds the status quo because nothing changes, right?
Yes.
Everything, as
Just
you've said,
$50 richer.
remains the same.
Yeah.
It's not even $50 richer.
$50 richer. You
Because
could pay a bill for the day.
if you look at the $50 and you look at the 5-year spread, that's $10 a year. 365 days into $10. You do the math, right? But this is exactly the thing that I'm saying here. Like, we are at a point where we're not looking at things critically to say, you know what, my vote means more to me than the money or the material aspect of it.
Exactly.
My vote changes the way how the nation is cultured. That's the power of the vote, because you determine exactly what direction you're going to go in terms of you casting that ballot. But if you're only doing it because, oh, my mother may PUP or my father may UDP, and then it's that generational thing, then you're missing the
I think
the
people
point.
also forget that when it comes down to the line, it's just you and your ballot, you know. You could accept that $50. It means absolutely nothing when you come in and there's that box, there's that paper, and that's your pen. That is where your morals, your ethics, the things that you stand for, the issues that you want to see resolved, that's when it comes to play. Because at the end of the day, let's be very honest, if you are out there complaining about the economy and the way things are going, you know that $50 not last you nothing, right? So
well, that's why everybody lines up at the clinic. They wait for the air drop another 50.
And that goes back to, again, lack of understanding of your democratic right, lack of understanding of the way elections work, should work, as soon as it work, should work in a democratic state. But for our ladies here this morning, and you say you're a paralegal, I want to know, would you ever, and you're seeing more young people going into at least local government, would you ever dip your hands in the political arena?
I think for me personally, I love being for the people. I love giving out. I love making changes. I love making others happy. So I think that is one of that is a big achievement. That's a big thing where I think that we are in a position, we can do it, we have the resources, we have the authority. So let me hear out my fellow Belizeans, the youths, the elders. I think I would be open to that, definitely. Even if it's just the city council, maybe general election, maybe prime minister.
Are you giving a prompt to your? You know, you could.
It's great to have political ambition.
Yeah.
Right. But it has to be of some value, not only to yourself, but to the people that you're seeking to serve.
Exactly.
It can't be that you're using it solely as a stepping stone to further your own individual agenda.
Exactly.
It has to be about service to people first.
People.
But the thing about it is that whenever we get that first taste, we start to forget where we come from and what is our mandate to the people that we're supposed to serve, right?
Yeah.
So it goes from walking the neighborhood to sitting in the office and then calling the shots and then forgetting that these are the very people who put you there to be able to look back. It's not that they're putting you there to only look forward and help those who you feel are closest to you.
Right. That's why I feel like you actually do have to have the passion for it. I think if you go into it with the mindset of, okay, this is what I can do and I really want to make a change. You know, I live in this country, my children, my grandchildren live in this country. I want to raise them in a place where they can succeed. So I feel like if you do have that passion, I feel like you're never going to steer the wrong way, you know. You're always going to have that mentality of, this is what I love doing. So it's never going to steer you wrong.
It comes down to passion. I agree with her fully. It comes down to passion because being a politician or being in a position of power isn't like way to step up or boost your career. This is real. You're representing a group of people. People put their trust in you, and I feel like if I were ever in a position like that, I would be so honored, and I would be so honored to be a representative of the people.
I feel like no one man should have that much power, and that comes to. I agree, but I just in the rare sense, Nelson Mandela said it first. Kanye copyrighted, but at the end of the day, it's not just a one-man show. It's a slate. That's why this municipal election is important for your local government. And you don't just put your trust in the mayoral candidate, you put your trust in all.
I have one final question.
Wait, because at the end of the day, he not vote yet, so we'll give him the last one. For you ladies out there, because we're wrapping up the segment soon, so this is my final question. If you see yourself in the next, you vote somebody in the next 3 to 5 years, right? How much are you expecting that your changes will occur, your needs will be met? And I ask this because we want things happen now, right? And so your expectations of what you want to see progress in your society, how well do you want to see that change progress? How quick, how vast, what are your expectations?
Well, ideally, like you said, we want instant gratification. We want it now, but that's just ideally. Realistically, I think they're given that amount of time in office so that they can, build up the foundations, build up the establishments, hear the people, and actually put that into work. I give them their whole term, honestly. Maybe half the term I see this happening, in the last half I see something else happen, but I do expect change. I expect more education system where we are informed about the votes, we're informed about what they can do, what they are doing. There's transparency within the group, and that's what I expect.
When it comes to the change, I understand people want instant gratification, but when it comes to instant gratification, that doesn't necessarily mean long term. As for me, I agree. I'll give them their entire term to make that change, but once they're out of office, I expect that change to last, because it doesn't make sense if you're going to make a change just for your term. I want something long term, continuous. And
I'm glad that you ladies both set up
the stage
for my question, right? So what are your thoughts? That's my final observation / question here. So what are your thoughts then when you, in your case, Philani, you're going first on March 6th, that some of these very candidates will turn around and say, okay, I want to run for central government in 2025 before the completion of their 3-year term. Wouldn't you as a voter feel shortchanged that if you're voting for someone at the municipal level who has a 3-year term of office, right? That individual turns around and says, okay, I have my eyes on a particular seat, Mesopotamia or Port Loyola or Collet or whatever. And so they're willing now to say, I'll step up to the big leagues. But their work is reserved to you for that 3-year term. And while you respect the fact that they do have personal ambitions of stepping up, they're still in service to you. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it all goes back to the passion of it. I think having that mindset where, okay, I want municipal elections, let me see what else I can do. I think if they do that, then you can see the mindset, the mentality that they have. So, I mean, they are open and they have the free will to do that, but I would feel shortchanged. I would feel like, okay, you're doing this maybe for malintent or for your benefit only, not for the people. So, I mean, they can go ahead and do that, I guess, but you would see the type of person that they are. I think it does come down to that. They, like we said, the honeymoon stage they give us, but after that we do see the real, and we can go ahead and maybe change our vote, or maybe
not vote them
in at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my view on that.
Well, bringing it back to the job analogy, how can you have a contract with somebody and say, you know what, I want to leave? That's a binding contract. You signed your name, well, you signed your name there, and you said, I'm going to commit to this for this period of time. So of course I would feel shortchanged.
Yeah.
And it does show that, okay, maybe they're not really into this for the people, because if you really committed to the people and you know that the people put their trust in you for this period of time, you will stay there despite your own career goals. I feel as if when someone, okay, they break their promise, even though they said that they're going to do this for this period of time, and they broke their promise to go along with their own career goals. And I feel like that kind of shows maybe their mentality on a whole, like, okay, I got this seat in this level, now let me see if I can get it in that higher level.
And that's why I feel like we as the young people should talk about these things, call them out, and not be afraid to do so, because that's what we have the right to do. So if we do see things going wrong, or we see things that maybe should not be, we should have the right to say so, and we should say so. We should use our voice at all times.
And that's why you have to vote. Ladies, thank you so much for coming in this morning. We really appreciate it. I hope to see you in line, because I know you to come. You're coming up this year. I know where I'm going on March 6th. But thank you so much for giving us your opinion. Thank you so much for having this conversation with us and with your friends. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
We are going to take a quick break, Isani, and when we come back, it's all about the development strategies for 2024. Stay with us.
Let's take a journey through the core functions of the Social Security Board. It all starts with registering as an insured person, employer, or self-employed individual. Sign up for a portal account to manage your Social Security information online. Just provide accurate information and click Create. This will give you access to a range of services and benefits. Next, your contribution, along with investments and other income, are collected and distributed into 3 funds. This ensures that the SSB fund is securely utilized to support various benefit programs. The SSB is committed to providing essential benefits such as sickness, maternity, injury, and pension. These benefits are paid out to eligible individuals as a part of the Social Security coverage. We help you navigate through life's challenges with financial security. Annual surplus accumulates to grow the fund each year. This surplus is invested into various industries, contributing to the growth and development of our nation. With each passing year, the fund continues to grow due to the annual surplus and interest revenue earned from prudent investments. This surplus, along with reserves, helps to bolster the SSB fund and provide a safety net for those in need. We've arrived at the end of our journey to better understanding how the SSB works. We remain committed to serving you and building a secure future for all Belizeans.
After a rough week of school, Jake and his friends decide to treat themselves to frozen coffee. And since they don't have cash on them, they decide to use eCash. With eCash's geolocation feature, Jake can easily find the nearest coffee spot. With eCash's built-in option to split bills, Jake can pay the bill and his friends can reimburse their portion of the bill. Jake scans the merchant's code and confirms payment. Jake then views his transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made, then taps the split the bill button, where he selects the evenly option to evenly split the bill. The application splits the bill automatically. His friends receive and accept the request. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash makes Jake enjoy his digital lifestyle.
I'm connected. Yo.
I'm connected. we're connected.
Create the perfect broadband bundle that fits your style with Smart Connect. With the Junior Bundle, get 50% off your national calls and up to 6 gigabytes of data at no extra cost. Get postpaid added for an additional cost of only $25 with the Prime Bundle. Stay connected with unlimited smart-to-smart calls plus 6,300 megabytes of data and free international minutes. For the family, pay $28.13 more and get the Binge Watchers bundle with Netflix. This bundle gives you 4 profiles with unlimited streaming on multiple devices. Visit a showroom near you to sign up and personalize your own bundle combination with Smart Connect. Smart, bringing people together.
What does family mean to you? Form a strong bond with your family. Always remember, they may not be in the same place. Make the time you spend together fun and memorable. Ignore the petty differences. Love them while you still can. Life can be short. You can be the glue that keeps them together.
You did a great job. Congratulations.
Family. Meaningful always.
And welcome back. For our second and final conversation this morning, we have been joined by the Chief Executive Officer in the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment, none other than Dr. Oswald Martinez. Good morning, CEO.
Hey, good morning. It's always a pleasure to be here, and good morning to the audience.
It's always a pleasure to have you here with us as well.
Thank you.
We're talking this morning about 2024 and some of the projects that are currently in the works and perhaps what we can expect in terms of other initiatives that will be undertaken this year. Let's talk first of all about the ones that are currently being carried out. Last year, there was the announcement that a tertiary hospital will be built and established in Belmopan, and there are other facilities in San Pedro to be built and elsewhere. Where are we with those?
Okay, with the tertiary hospital in Belmopan, the TUR, which is the terms of reference for the design of the hospital, was completed in December of last year, and then it was sent to the Saudi fund to because they have to give their no objections.
Yeah.
So they look at it, they give their no objection, and no an official TOR was sent, which we will get an official response hopefully by the end of this week. And then the publication for a firm to do the design of the hospital will be advertised. Nonetheless, the way how the fund works or how the Saudi funds work is that the company or the firm will have to be a Saudi fund, one that will be working along with a Belizean firm. Okay, so the estimate is that the design will take around 6 months, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, but it will be around 6 months, and thereafter there will be in parallel, we will be doing the development of the TOR for the construction will be ongoing. So as soon as the design comes out, it's just to build in all the findings of the design into the terms of reference for the construction of the hospital, so that it can be published, and then the construction will start. I am estimating that the groundbreaking for the hospital, because you have two types of groundbreakings. One is that you can do the groundbreaking today and start maybe 2 years from now. And there is another one which I believe strongly is to do the groundbreaking maybe a month after the real groundbreaking has taken place, you know, when you look at all of the projects implemented under the Ministry of Economic Development, real groundbreaking happens when the work is being done. You know, so we don't want to promise and under-deliver, but at the contrary, we want to under-promise and over-deliver within the groundbreakings, in terms of the groundbreaking. So we are estimating that the real groundbreaking will take place maybe November or December of this year. In terms of the hospital in San Pedro, that's a hospital that we will see the groundbreakings in a couple of weeks. And even the Prime Minister, he has already made some announcements. So there is a significant progress in terms of the design. And I'm hoping that maybe in a few weeks from now, maybe 4 to 8 weeks from now, we might be seeing a groundbreaking of the hospital in San Pedro.
I want to get your take, CEO, when it comes to these particular projects. I know that Belize receives significant assistance. Not everything is funded. Sometimes we do take on some very substantial amount of loans. When it comes to these infrastructures and these collaborations and so forth, how does it affect the regular people in terms of our taxpayer dollars at work? Really, I'm asking this question because we don't often get a breakdown of where our contribution as regular folk come into these large infrastructure, these large projects that are being implemented.
Okay, no, that's a very good question. Nonetheless, when you look at, for example, the way how the tax revenues work, it actually goes into a consolidated account within the government of Belize. And then from there, a percentage of that, of the revenues will go towards paying to the different commitments that the government will have. And not only today's commitment, but commitments of historically from day one of Belize's political independence to know, you know. And so, but when it comes to tax, and so it won't affect an increase in tax. Okay, this is where the government will have to be and continues to be innovative in how to generate more revenues without affecting the local consumers in terms of tax or local taxpayers, okay, without you being taxed more. And so, but the benefit that is needed is that, say, for example, the health system need to be strengthened, okay, and not only, well, the first aspect of it is that we're seeing a building, okay, which is good, but at the same time, the system, you know, that the services and everything will be in place to accommodate the needs and to satisfy the customer service level or at all level where our taxpayers can be satisfied. And this is something that the Ministry of Health, with under the vision of the Honorable Kevin Bernard and their CEO Julio Sabido, they are working hard on it. So the support is how can you strengthen the infrastructure part and the system.
I also wanted to have this conversation with you because you said you want to talk about inflation. And I wanted to build up on the conversation about taxes because you can't have that conversation without talking about inflation.
Right.
And it's no secret that it's the middle class, if you want to call it the middle class, it's the middle class that contributes the majority of the tax that happens in our country. But also the ones that experience the most inflation. So how do you then counterbalance your conversation on how our taxes assist versus we're not getting the same for that the balance is kind of tipped over? It feels that the balance is a little bit.
I would say you're right. You know, when you look at the middle class historically, and not only in Belize, globally, is the one that carries all the burdens, all the hard delivery in terms of carrying an economy forward, you know, and is the one that floats between the upper and lower class. And at the same time, historically, I have been looking at it and reading a lot when it comes to the middle class, and is one of the class that has no social protection program.
Precisely. I was waiting for you to go there, Doc.
Yeah, and it's one of the middle class is the one that is the most productive. It's the one that is hardworking. At the same time, is the one that contributes the most to government's revenue. When you look at the vulnerable population, there is always incentives being put in place to help the what we would call in the socioeconomic status structure, the lower class, or the one who doesn't fall within the middle class. Globally, I see that with the issues of inflation, with the disruption of the supply chain, even with the impact of COVID-19 as a result of COVID-19, the middle class was the most affected one. Okay, so one of the things is, so for example, I will break it to you in 3 little steps now. So the government has been working in creating a lot of policies that will assist the upper class, the investments aspect of it, which is great, and that's where we need to go. Right? Now, there was the $5 minimum wage. There is a lot of social programs that are being put in place for the lower class. But what about the middle class? Okay, and that is one of the things that we have been working very hard on right now, because when you look at inflation, it is imported. So there are only 2 ways to defeat inflation. All right, in Belize, that's how I see it. One is, and I can be wrong, but this is my personal opinion. One is that government will have to reduce taxes, which then, what about the commitments that government have?
Yeah.
So it affects the revenues. And that's impossible for the government, especially coming from a COVID-19 pandemic, coming from a situation where the government was borrowing $1 million per day, where debt to GDP was high. And so even, you see, Belize's economy is small, which then make it fragile. So if, may God protect us, but if any natural disaster was to happen, all those good macroeconomic indicators that we have would be affected. So tax is almost impossible. At the contrary, IMF and so have been saying, you know, increase tax. You know, but the government was, and the second one.
I, as a citizen of this country, a working man who I'm proud to be middle class, feel as if though I'm already being taxed to death. So if there's a recommendation from IMF or any other institution that's looking at our state of affairs to say that, hey, you need to raise taxes, my salary can't go anymore. Right? And I'm certain that a lot of other people feel the same exact way.
I feel the same way. You know, I'm a citizen, productive, working class. I fall within the middle class as well, so I do feel the pain. And so when you look, for example, at that part, I was happy that our Prime Minister and his cabinet, within their wisdom, said no, right? But the second option is, no, how can we increase your income?
Yes, please.
So if there is a way how we can increase the middle class income, then that way you will say, okay, we weren't able to fight inflation heads on because we don't have the ability to do so. But maybe we do have, by the middle class income being increased without affecting the private sector. You know? So imagine the private sector won't have to increase your salary, but your salary has been increased. Okay, and these are the things that we are working on, because we have to keep a balance on the point that Okay, so everything that we import is inflation. So you see, it's a very tricky situation. The government is in a very tricky situation.
Yeah.
Because we cannot ask the private sector to continue to increase your salary, because what will happen is that that cost will be passed on to consumption. And then that will trigger inflation.
Yeah.
So your money will become illusion.
The majority of the persons that work middle class either are MSMEs or work for the government.
Right.
So then how do you increase our salaries and without harming the private section, but without also not increase my taxes, because that's where my salary comes from anyway.
Right.
So I not feel sorry for.
Yeah, and so this is where we're working on. We're putting together some numbers and everything together and seeing how it can work. I will be responsible to get into the details, because I wouldn't want to be selling false hopes to anyone.
Yeah.
You know, but these are the things that we are working on and trying to see, because then whatever we do has to be balanced. If not, it will affect the general public. But at the same time, the bottom part is that when policies are being introduced that are just, we just run with it and do it because of political gain, at the end, again, the middle class suffer. The most vulnerable population are the ones who continues to pay the price. And so we're doing different ways. So another aspect of it is, for example, is to come up with projects that can assist the government.
See, Doc, as middle class, we are the ones who buttress the upper class, and we are the ones who have to uplift the lower class, right? But as you mentioned earlier, there isn't much, if not anything, that we are receiving in terms of alleviating our stresses, holding up or pulling up. Like you said, there's no social safety net for persons who fall within that particular bracket. But when taxes are levied, we are the ones who have to incur those additional expenses, right? And for the most part, we're not aspiring to be wealthy. We just want to be comfortable, to be able to take care of ourselves and our families, right? It's not like we have these lofty ambitions where we want to be Fortune 500, and no, we just
even afford it.
Want to be able to operate within a comfortable space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and that is the aspect, you know, of it, you know, that. And, you know, and unfortunately, I always like numbers. So I always look at the historical data. And I always said to people, listen, it's not that we were well off before the COVID-19 pandemic. We were already living paycheck to paycheck. And I recall coming here to Open Your Eyes, I think it was 2019, and at that time Marlene said, you know, and I quote, she said, "We are one paycheck from being poor." You know, and so
it's a sad reality, but it's the truth.
And that was back in 2019, you know, with the issues with COVID-19 and all the other components that came with it, with the disruption of the supply chain, with the invasion of Russia to Ukraine, you know, with the Gaza-Israel war. I mean, it's like the countries like Belize would benefit through investment, but also be affected through inflation. You know, I was reading, so for example, that the vessels that are coming through the Red Sea, they might see or might experience an increase in cost by 3 times because of shipping costs, no, because of all the issues that's happening there in terms of war. So, and a lot of time people are like, oh, but Belize does not need natural gas from Russia, which is true, but a lot of people don't know that fertilizers use natural gas. You know, so we still be affected on it. But like I was saying, you know, we have to find ways, and one of the strategic ways that we are doing is how can we get other projects that will help. And so, for example, one of the things that, and I mean, and for some reason, I think and I'm grateful that I'm getting to learn a lot within my work and what I do, because the challenges that we have and the challenges that we have to address, I'm not sure if any other administration had to do it before, and I'm not sure if any other administration will have to do it after.
Yeah.
You know, because the IMF, for example, and the World Bank are predicting that we will start to see things come back to normality in 2025, okay, or at the end of 2025, and that is by reducing the cost of finance, and therefore to see how that can affect inflation as well. But we have other problems. So, for example, energy, right? When you look at energy, for example, Mexico have concerns and issues in the production of energy. And then what happened with Belize is that the demand of energy, the present demand of energy that Belize has, was the demand that was forecasted for 2027.
Wow.
The truth of the matter is that we're not entirely self-sufficient when it comes to energy.
Right.
So we're dependent to an extent on CFE.
Right.
But then
big dependency.
But then CFE's primary mandate is to serve Mexico and Mexicans, right?
Absolutely.
So when they have a significant drawdown, that has to be serviced before first. We come secondary to that. So we're in a position now where we seriously have to look at becoming self-sufficient where energy is concerned. Hydro, solar, wind, whatever other alternative means of being able to satisfy that demand.
Absolutely. And so when you look, for example, at issues that with energy, the energy sector, so it's like, and this is where the tricky part comes, saying, okay, I prefer to have energy, you know, especially when it's hot, where my fan can be blowing on me, rather than not to have a fan, you know. And when you look, for example, at the constraints and issues that we're having, so what the government has done is, on a visionary way, saying, listen, we have to be energy self-sustainable. And so there is the solar plant of 60 megawatts that is coming into play, and that solar panel, that project is also advancing very well. You know, in parallel, there are two other things that are being done, and that is, for example, that BEL will start a gap assessment on the grid. You know, because renewable energy needs modern grid, so it needs to be modernized so it can be efficient. And so they're working on that. And at the same time, you will find ways on how to have the solar plants, but have it on different areas. Why? Because that will help in terms of if there is any natural disaster, or if there is just a cloud all day over that section, that it won't affect the productivity of energy. And then there is the battery energy solution system that will need to be in place as well. And that is one that we're working along with the World Bank, which will be approved. We're hoping that it will be approved in March, you know, so that we can have the three components, which is the solar, the batteries, and the grid that will be well modernized. Then in hand of that now, I will give you a hint now of what one of the things that the government is working on very strong is to put a legislation in place and to work it along with BEL in terms of have a net metering balance, whereby no households can maybe contribute as well and produce energy into the grid. And then when you consume back, you know that there will be a balance. So that will help you to reduce your expenses. And so that's one of the ways that we can help to tackle inflation. Okay.
Well, Doc, I feel like we still haven't covered the surface of the updates for 2024, and I hope you do come back because we do have a
Absolutely.
lot more to discuss, but unfortunately we're completely out of time. But we want to say thank you so much for stopping by. We'll have more conversation about the inflation part when you come back next time. And just we thank you so much for being here today.
No, thank you. And there is a lot of projects that we need to tackle. So,
Yes.
for example, there will be like 6 police stations that will be built. There is additional cameras, surveillance camera systems that will be extended. Forensic science lab, more road infrastructure as well.
A lot more to look forward to.
There is a lot more. I think we will have almost close to 100 projects that will be implemented this year.
Wow. So we look forward to it, and we hope that there are traffic cones. Thank you so much, Doc, for being here with us. We're going to take the break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap things up. Stay with us.
Apply now for an undergraduate degree in animation, film or journalism at the Caribbean School of Media and Communication at the University of the West Indies, Mona. For more information, visit www.mona.uwi.edu/apply.
If we all don't come together and work together to change the bigger climate picture, these efforts will be in vain.
It's right there.
I believe that we have something special that is also a secret right now, which is unexplored, undiscovered.
I've been with the sugar fishermen all morning, catching lobster and conch. And then we realized it's time for lunch. And man, it's gonna be good. I think they deserve it.
These will offer you coping mechanisms when dealing with violent situations.
That is a very simple phone number that you can store in case of any emergencies.
Violence exists in the form of corrective rape.
Welcome Marines as the totally new HE member.
We realize that success in agriculture isn't just about land and access to finance. We realize that we have members who have issues of domestic abuse, who have issues of child sexual abuse in their families. We've noted that the barriers and the obstacles are quite different for women and girls than for men. And this is why we decided to take a holistic approach.
Violence against women and girls is an issue for me because I think it is used as measures of control and it is a reinforcement of negative power dynamics. All people, especially women who have been experiencing discrimination and injustice for quite some time, deserve to be afforded physical, emotional, financial, and mental stability and safety.
There are a lot of persons who don't understand the dynamics, of violence against women and girls. And so there's always need for advocacy and education to keep the awareness.
Economic empowerment, that's what we've been focused on day one. We've focused on creating opportunities, economic opportunities for women to establish themselves as independent business owners. On top of that, we've also created and ensured that we create male allies in their families, whether it's their husbands, their partners, and so forth, to understand the rights of women and to also understand and upskill themselves as supportive partners of these women and girls.
We need to educate young men and women within our society today, engage them in a one-on-one interaction, educating them about the different types of domestic violence that we have within our society, and teaching them how ending violence against women and girls can help within our future generation in preserving the future for women.
I believe it's important for persons to be aware of the positive enforcement and policy shifts in that of legislation, because this is what brings about change. This is what brings about the change in people's mindsets, and knowing that there are legislation, there are enactment of bills that advances the rights of women and girls.
Everyone has a part to play. If we see or hear something, we shall say or do something.
We have to stand up and make the changes ourselves to set the example for everyone else.
I will continue to play my part by advocating to end violence against women and girls.
We all need to make sure that we help to fight to eliminate violence against women and girls in our society.
What grows together, goes together. Let's stand in solidarity to fight violence against women and girls.
Everyone has a part to play.
Everyone has a part to play
in ending violence against women and girls.
And welcome back. We are wrapping up our Monday morning show here at OYE, and we want to say a big thank you to all of our guests for tuning in, for coming in this morning and having that conversation with us, Isana. We also want to say a big thank you to all of our viewers who join in every single day to start their morning here with us on OYE. It is January 22nd. If it is your birthday today, happy birthday to you from all of us here on Channel 5. And if you have a birthday shout out or just a question or a comment, drop us a line right here at OYE@channel5belize.com. You can catch our live stream every day on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ, and check out our highlights on Instagram at OYE Belize. Do us the favor and join us again tomorrow when you open your eyes.
To start your morning right.
Be sure to keep your eyes, your minds,
and your hearts open.
See you soon, Belize. Have a great day. It's going to be a wet one, so stay as dry as you possibly can. Bye.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.